What's up, Flick fans? Welcome back to the channel. We're talking Twisters, the sequel to Twister, a movie that I didn't even know would be necessary a year ago. But guess what? Glenn Powell, he's a movie star. Daisy Edgar-Jones, she's awesome. So is this film good? Why am I sitting here? I'm on vacation. Should I be doing this? Probably not, but I enjoy it.
How long is this going to take?
A retired tornado chaser and meteorologist is persuaded to return to Oklahoma to work with a new team and new technologies to chase down this tornado. Daisy Edgar-Jones plays Kate, and Kate gets an awesome sequence to start out this movie that amplifies what I thought the stakes were going to be almost immediately, puts you right in the middle of the madness, and then we get a new team. We get some new, mostly new characters. We add in Glenn Powell, who is a certified freaking movie star, which I talked about on the Movie Mode podcast a couple of weeks ago. Is he what makes this movie good? No. Does he add a lot to it? Absolutely. Also, Anthony Ramos, who I've been a big fan of, he plays a pretty integral role starting out with Daisy Edgar-Jones in the beginning and then being with her as they form this new team of more modern tornado hunters. And I want to start with this. I want to pose the question. What are you looking for in a Twisters sequel? Everyone's going to have something different to say, but I think a lot of people are going to say something similarly to, I just want to go to the theater in the summer and have some fun watching this crazy disaster film play out on the big screen. Maybe you care about the original movie and maybe you don't. But seeing our team take on this beast, which is, a series of tornadoes, but I liken it to a horror movie. I've seen scary movies, quote unquote, in 2024 that have been significantly less scary than Twisters, because you know what's really scary? Nature, and what nature can do, and how nature can take this wind tunnel and suck things up and just rip buildings apart and say, Dead the idea if that's terrifying. When the original Twister came out, now granted, I was youth. Now, I'm not saying it's on the level of Jaws, because it's absolutely not, but it did a similar thing, right? It took people's fear of sharks, a tornado, a snake, talking Anaconda. That movie's ridiculous, but really fun. And it amplifies that. It brings that realistic fear to a situation, to a series of situations that are very unrealistic. And that's what Twisters is. That's also what the original Twister is. This film kind of repackages that idea and has very similar sequences, also shots that harken back to the original Twister. Now, if you're asking me, Austin, what do you think of the original Twister? Do you care what I think? That's a question. 1996, I was 1 year old, so I didn't watch it till later. Obviously, I think it's fun. It's not one that I watch today and I'm like, man, that's a classic film for a reason, but it's a fun movie that almost everyone has seen, at least watched 5 minutes of on TV at this point because of the countless reruns. But if you look at the cast, I mean, Helen Hunt, Bill Paxton, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Alan Ruck, it's one of the most stacked disaster movie casts you'll ever see, and that's a big part of the reason why it works, because everyone's so good. Even though the writing's a little ridiculous and the moments are ridiculous, it doesn't hold up visually, but it doesn't have to. It did what it needed to do at the time, and it worked really well. And I'm finding like a hankering for a good big blockbuster disaster movie like this, right? We haven't really seen that recently. And Twisters is a great example of capitalizing on the original, hearkening back to some of those moments, and I'm talking specific shots. And there's a shot here where the lightning strikes, you see the tornado in the background. It's just like a shot that we saw in Twister. But this movie is doing that in good faith, but it's also not one where you have to go back and watch the first Twister. If you haven't seen Twister, you don't have to see Twister to understand this. People fight tornado. That's all you need to know. If this was a cast of a bunch of okay actors, right, I'd probably be like, yeah, it's not the best, but at least it's a big visual spectacle. But that's not the case, right? Glenn Powell, certified movie star. Daisy Edgar-Jones is really, really good in this lead role. You can feel her emotion heavily in the beginning and how that ties in, how that plays in to what she's going through later on in the movie, how she's very hesitant to do what ends up happening. It's not a spoiler. They fight the tornadoes. That's obvious. But even someone like David Corenswet, freaking Superman, in these smaller supporting roles across the board, it's like, yeah, you've assembled a great cast, so obviously we're going to care. But to be honest with you, the script went a little more in depth than I anticipated. I didn't think we would get character depth here. I didn't think we would care about these characters on the level that we did. Her, obviously, but Glenn Powell's Tyler, I mean, full-on Matthew McConaughey character. It's just some of his things, some of his one-liners in this movie, they are ridiculous. And he's almost coming across as cocky, but there's like a level, there's a fence that he's walking, and he walks that tightrope beautifully to where he never becomes that. You think he's going to, clearly full of himself in a way, but not in a way to where it's like, man, I'd hate that guy. It's more like, I'd kind of want to hang out with that guy because I feel like I'd have a pretty good time, you know? I want to go fight a tornado because I want to experience what life is like. We've had a lot of good legacy sequels as of late. I think the biggest is obviously Top Gun Maverick. I saw some early reactions saying, this is Top Gun Maverick, the Top Gun Maverick of 2024. I don't think it's that. It's a different spirit, if you will. It's a different type of recapturing the magic. And this premise is one where you can't really go that extra mile. Granted, I'd like to see it. Who knows? I didn't think they could with Top Gun Maverick, and they did that. I don't know if they went the extra mile with Twisters, but to recapture the magic on the level that they did and do it in 2024. So now we've got amazing visual effects on top of film. We're using film. We're not going digital with this movie. And there's something about the way that that translates. There's something about that look and style to this one. And a lot of this comes back to the director, Lee Isaac Chung, who did Minari. And so you have the Minari director taking on a big blockbuster. We've seen examples of that before that have fallen flat. But for the most part, it gives it a look and feel and maybe a little more depth with the script, maybe some characters that you care about a little bit more. Camaraderie, chemistry between Daisy Edgar-Jones and Glenn Powell, that is fantastic. And so that's another element that makes the movie fun. But his implementation of style, the decision to do this on 35mm, all of those things I chalk up to him, and all of those elements are good decisions to make for a movie like Twisters. And the grandiose payoff, meaning when they're actually fighting the tornadoes, those scenes are awesome. Now, would I have preferred some of those sequences to have showcased the scale of the tornado a bit more because I liken this to a horror movie, to like a monster movie of sorts? Yes. We spend a lot of time inside of the tornadoes, therefore you don't get a sense of scope like you do some of these other sequences, but we still get those. And so I still thoroughly enjoyed myself in those moments. And when we're in the heart of the beast, the rush, like the adrenaline rush in the theater, even if you're not on board with the characters, even if you could care less who dies, it's still a lot of fun. And so I'm a little shocked with some of the divisiveness I'm seeing on like Letterboxd. You go to these movies to have fun. You may not even like the characters, but I enjoyed the chemistry, the performances, more than I thought I would. Now, plenty of ridiculous moments with the science of it all, with the, there's YouTubers in this movie that are people that just do stupid things. The decision-making, not the best. And so when you get those scratch-your-head moments in a movie like this, on top of a premise like this, it may make more sense to some, but for someone like me, I'm always going to point that out and be like, that's a flaw. That's an issue. That's weird.
Okay.
And tonally, some ridiculous over-the-top moments, emotional stakes across the board. But I've been watching a lot more Indian cinema as of late, and so sometimes their movies are up and down tonally. This felt like that on occasion. Didn't bother me as much because I was having fun. But yeah, I definitely have to write that down as another issue.
Write that down, write that down!
It's an hour and 57 minutes. For those who could care less about the human story, they may feel like this is more than 2 hours, and so that's going to be a problem. I didn't necessarily feel the runtime. I was questioning, okay, why are they focusing so much on the humans here? Let's get to the tornadoes. But when we do get to the tornadoes, there is payoff. So at least there's that. Austin, wrap this up. You're on vacation, dude. I know. I'm sorry. So before I give you my score, what'd you think of Twisters? Did you enjoy this? Is this the big screen experience you wanted to have, or did you just require more from the characters and the story? Leave your thoughts below and drop a like, because, I took some time to make this. Twisters delivers all the thrills and chills audiences will be looking for on the big screen this summer, just as the first did. It plays like a monster movie where our heroes are taking on this untamable beast that nature's created. While it may not go the extra mile, the characters are much more engaging than expected, as Powell and Edgar-Jones show some excellent chemistry. You're not in this for the chemistry, you're in this for the naders. And the naders are big. Maybe there's two naders. Maybe there's a fire nader. And when the nader gets lit on fire, well, That's cool. Why am I doing that? Why am I not at the beach? I should be at the beach. But you know what? I like being here. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. We got more reviews this weekend. Hey, I'm seeing Deadpool early. Stay tuned.